Hello and welcome to Wccftech Interviews. My name is Dave, and today we are with Steve Kuroki from nWay, who you might know as the developers of Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, one of the most interesting fighting games I've played in a very long time. Steve?
Hey Dave, nice to meet you.
Thank you for joining us. So we're going to kick straight into this, and kick things off, I'm going to ask, what was the original driving force behind nWay, to your knowledge, and the kind of games that you wanted to create there?
Yeah, so nWay had the goal of creating hyper-accessible games available on emerging platforms. We started off developing games first on Facebook, of all platforms. I came to the studio to bring my console experience and kind of like merge but really good feeling combat and gameplay that you might find on like God of War or DMC. To a platform which was weird, like on Facebook. First time I played their engine, we were actually playing the game on a keyboard. It felt awesome. I needed to be a part of it. But the goal of nWay was always to look into the future and always figure out like what's going to be the next platform. We developed a game on Facebook, quickly transitioned to mobile, created a lot of fun games on mobile, and then took a stab on console with Battle for the Grid, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I looked briefly at nWay's development history before the interview, and I saw the first mobile game you put out. I'm forgetting the name right now.
Yeah, Chronoblade.
Chronoblade, that's right. And I saw it as like a side-scrolling brawler, and of course, Power Rangers Legacy Wars.
Yep.
So what draws nWay towards making these action-heavy titles as opposed to any of the other kind of mobile games you could have made?
Yeah, so we're in a lucky place. I would say nWay allows the team to create games that they not only want to make, but also what they like to play at home. I think most of the team prefers the action genre. We have a lot of players a lot of developers from the fighting game community. Obviously, that's a lot of PvP stuff. And also a lot of love for console-based action games, the Soul series, DMCs, and even Capcom, all that stuff. And we wanted to bring that kind of like vibe and, game design into the mobile space. Basically in this day and age, you're able to pull out your device and play games on the fly. And we wanted to give you that experience of getting that fix of action immediately. So that's what basically drives us as a studio to continue working on the action genre. The other huge aspect is the PvP. One thing that we learned during Chronoblade is for action side scrollers and games with a lot of progression, there's a lot of content, and you're either going to be in the position where you're just going to be working on the content treadmill, developing a lot of armor sets, monsters to kind of please the players. What we found is that, what's even more compelling is fighting against another person. That content is evergreen. It's easier to develop content for. Also, it gives you a fresh experience every time you play. We've really embraced that style of game, and we hope to continue making those styles of games forever.
Yeah, that's really great. So I was actually going to ask, you said that you have met multiple dev team members who are members of the FGC and fighting game communities. And that kind of leads me into our next question, which is why you moved from just more like a casual brawler and action games to Battle for the Grid, which can be taken as more of a serious fighting game. Is that why you've got so many fans on the team?
Yeah, with the first game with Legacy Wars, with that mobile fighter, there wasn't anything in the market like that. We took a risk on creating something that we felt really strongly and passionately about in the studio. It was really fun to make. We knew that we wanted to present the game as a fighter and like a really, really high quality action game. But the mobile controls kind of limit you into the types of inputs and like how often you want to just be rapping on your screen. There's also the whole network issue of trying to make sure that the game performs well over various networks, not only just Wi-Fi but also on LTE. So that during that development, we were really proud of that game. We felt that the game was very well received by the community. But there was always like a burning passion to, take that onto the console space. During the Legacy Wars development, like during our prototyping phase, we did have a lot more of your traditional controls, light attacks, heavy attacks, and certain buttons. And so we always had that built into our engine, and with the opportunity to work on a new game for the console arose, and we were super excited about it. Quickly put together some prototypes, and we were able to use our experience on not only creating Legacy Wars, but also our experience in playing these games, and really, got up a really functional gameplay, prototype for Battle for the Grid in a short amount of time. The things that we're also looking at for that game was like, how do we make this game accessible? How do we make this game like really easy for people to pick up and play? At the time, we were studying a lot of Dragon Ball Fighters. That was a good reference. We're also looking at the Power Rangers fan base. I have some kids, and and nephews and nieces, and I wanted them to be able to pick up the game and kick some butt really fast. And one of the things that we really wanted to solve for our control scheme and for our gameplay was, can someone just quickly pick up and play the game and get pretty far? That's pretty easy, but enough depth. Thank God for our dev team. They brought that experience to make sure that it wasn't too casual, where most players that are competitive would get bored. Yeah. They wanted to make sure that there was enough depth for the competitive scene to really get into it, and the gameplay evolved from there, and it's still continuing to evolve even to this day.
So even since the beginning, it seems like targeting that more competitive yet accessible feeling was a goal.
Yeah, it was a goal. It's one of those things that we hoped would work. As a developer, we're always, taking chances and, going with our best foot forward, hoping that, the community and the players, see what we want to make and see our vision. And it worked out. We're getting a lot of good feedback. One of the great things about learning from mobile is, the games as a live service. From day one, we started off with, a short amount of characters, limited roster, and we've been able to grow it over time. Most people can see that on the content side, but under the hood, there's a lot of gameplay balance, a lot of new mechanics, a lot of just tuning that we're always capturing, getting feedback on, and slowly iterating and fixing over time. So the game that you saw on day one versus the game that you saw now is not only visually more impressive, but also plays a lot better.
So how did nWay come to work on the Power Rangers license?
Yeah, so great story. We started off the Power Rangers journey on Legacy Wars, and this is around the time of the 2017 movie. So we worked with the studios to develop a game that matched the launch of that movie, which was a really fast development process, but we were really proud of the game that we created. One thing that came out of that is that we wanted to make sure that the game was deep enough for content for a fighting game, because we didn't want to just have the movie characters. Even though we had them in there, we wanted to have more. So, working with Saban, which is now, owned by Hasbro, we had access to the kingdom, as they say. We also got approval to have Rangers team up from different seasons and team up with monsters, but most importantly, fight against each other, which never really happens. So, with that stuff kind of settled, we were able to develop the game. And with that base, Legacy Wars was created, and we developed Battle for the Grid with the same ideas.
That's great. That's great. So what was it like transitioning from a primarily mobile focused development cycle to multi-platform?
Yeah, it was not as rough as I'd imagined. When I first thought about the project and we got it together, a little nervous. But one of the things about nWay is we have a really great dev team that developed a lot of awesome tools that allow us to, we developed the tools from Chronoblade to transition into Legacy Wars, and then we took that to work on to Battle for the Grid. And we always wanted to make tools that were, creator friendly. So any designer that could basically learn the tools really fast, we're able to prototype games and get that stuff going. So we were able to get the gameplay stuff going really fast. One of the challenges, though, was learning how to develop for console. We have a lot of, various experiences in the studio, from developing on mobile, developing on console and PC. So we utilized a lot of that knowledge to figure out, the tech stack and make sure everything kind of ran on all those platforms. But we're also a publisher. So one of the biggest challenges was trying to figure out how to, work with our team and publish the game on all the different platforms. Some of us came from, I knew Chris from LucasArts and Gavin. So some of us came from the console space and we're familiar with the QA process and submission process. But things change all the time. So, a lot of us was like, let's, contact the platform reps, make sure we have those relationships, ask for help. Everyone was super helpful. And the team just grinded through and got it. It was really, kudos to everyone involved to get that stuff going, because that was, I think, the biggest challenge is the publishing side of it. Creating the game and the design aspect, our team was laser focused on what they wanted to make, which was, helpful. And also, the scope of the project was also well defined. We knew how many characters we needed or we can get out at that time. We knew what features we wanted to get in. And then we knew what features we wanted to add on later on through our experience working on mobile. So we had a really pretty good feature roadmap for the next year to add story mode, to add lobbies, to add crossplay, all that stuff that I came on a little bit later. So yeah, I think a lot of the mobile experience really helped with figuring out how to develop a roadmap, how to scope and how to hit dates. We're really been successful with that.
That's great. That's great. And now that you've launched across multiple platforms, you've also introduced cross-play between them all. Was it a struggle getting that in place, or was it a relatively smooth process?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a struggle so much. It's smooth in a sense that our engineers did an awesome job, making sure that everything ran on the platforms. And the crossplay part was mostly challenging because we were one of the first to ever do it. I mean, I think we're the first fighting game to go full cross-platform on all the different, consoles. And, a lot of it was through, conversations with the platform teams, figuring out their guidelines, kind of like helping them define some of them as well, even when it wasn't ready. And, we just really pushed through and made sure we were able to demo the functionality and the technical aspect of it all. Which gave us, approvals on their end. And then we did a lot of testing and things were very smooth from there.
That's really great to hear, to be fair, yeah. So moving on to the story mode of the game, I played it a little bit and I was actually really surprised that it didn't feel as childish as I expected. It actually felt like quite nostalgic and I wouldn't say mature, but yeah, a little bit more grown up than I expected it to be. Is that a conscious choice from the team?
Yeah, actually it was. So the tone for Legacy Wars kind of like set the tone for Battle for the Grid. So the idea of the grid kind of getting blasted and anything can happen within the multiverse was kind of like the backstory. But with Legacy Wars, our main baddie was Rita. And then for Battle for the Grid, we want to change it up. Who would be a really fun baddie to fight against, but also play as. Draken kind of emerged, and we wanted to make sure that he was like extra vicious and extra evil. So that cold open, the idea of all that, we worked with the comic book writer Kyle Higgins, who helped us with the story. He's written a lot of DC comics, super helpful, really great process. Worked with a lot of people from Saban, and Hasbro to get that going. But yeah, I mean, as a studio, we're really into kind of more of the the serious nature for these projects. But we also wanted to embrace some of the fun and I wouldn't say campy, but more of the lighthearted stuff that you might find in your Power Rangers shows. And we were able to express that through the different arcade modes that we have in the game as well.
That's really great. So yeah, we are deep into season 3 for Battle for the Grid now. Scorpina is coming to the game. Is she in the game now or coming very soon?
She's coming very soon. Yeah, we'll have her out in December.
Excellent. So is it fair to say that the game has been successful up till now to earn that 3rd season?
Yeah, I would say that we're very pleased with the way the game's developed over time. On day one, we had 12 characters, I believe. We're now going to have our 21st character with Scorpina. And, the development on each of the characters since has gotten better and better. Shout out to Long for, creating some great designs. It seems like the community says like every new character is like the new meta. So I think we're learning about what the game needs. And that's really great for games like this because you want to keep the game fresh. You want to get them interested in trying out the new thing. So not only is like a fun character, Scorpina will look awesome. She's not as popular in the show. Like she doesn't show up in the show as much. But with video games as a medium, it's the perfect chance for us to bring in all the great ideas, pull like the deep cuts with the more popular ones, and really, look at that list, but also figure out like what's good for the game as a fighting game. So we look into archetypes, have a huge list of things that we want to add to the game, and we're still going to continue to add, hopefully, into the future. But yeah, it's been great hearing, the community really back us up every time we do a trailer announcement. They get excited, which gets the team excited and wants us to keep putting in, a lot of the, blood, sweat, and tears, especially even, during this time where we had to go into, work from home for the past few months. We're still hitting our dates, the quality's still high, spirits are still high in the studio. And I can't say enough for everyone working on the games and all of nWay and how much effort we put in. It's been amazing.
That's excellent. Yeah, I was actually talking to James Jen from the fighting game community just a few weeks ago about COVID and the pandemic and how that has affected the tournament scene. And it's definitely affected the entire industry, gaming communities as a whole, very, very in different ways. Do you think it's affected Power Rangers directly, other than that fact you've all had to work from home? Like, did you have more tournaments planned that didn't go through?
Yeah, so the great thing about Battle for the Grid, and people talk about it a lot, is we have a really good netcode, which allows us to have really high-performing matches online. We not only have the crossplay, but the netcode allows you to have pretty lag-free gameplay matches, which transitions into and can create a lot of online tournaments. So the league continues. People are still playing. We still have a lot of leagues and tournaments going on. It was a little bummer to not have like the big tournaments and like not fly out there and see everyone playing. Like I really love that part of making games. But in this day and age with online, the community is still strong. They're still backing us. They're still doing tournaments. The lobby feature helped out with that a lot. I would say it affected us, but not as much as I'd expected.
Yeah, I can imagine that it would affect fighting games with a worse netcode, far worse, which is good if anything. So if you don't mind me asking, how did you personally come into nWay and start working on these games? Yeah,
so my background is I've been doing gameplay design for console games, for most of my career. Started doing level design, boss design, character player controls, and that space was fun. I think the game that I finished right before going to nWay was Sly Cooper 4, which is a platformer. So that was another game that I really loved creating and working on. But I had some friends that were at nWay and they were making something like kind of secretive and new and breaking new ground. And I felt like it was a good time for me to, challenge myself and try something different. And it was one of the best decisions I made in my life. Not only was working on mobile challenging, but also learning about like the live environment and live operations, how we need to create content fast. The opinions of people playing the game really matter and we can make a difference. So if they say like, for example, X character is, imbalanced or, super powerful, we can quickly change that either through like a really quick, patch or, maybe plan that out and have the game feel alive for a long time. Like I was working on box products for so long where it's like, the game is shipped, it's pressed on disc. Oh crap, there was still like a bug in there that, someone might find. where we can fix the game forever on our games. And it's kind of refreshing in that aspect where it doesn't feel like it's a one and done thing. The game can grow over time. With Battle for the Grid, the game's going to grow over time. Legacy Wars is continuing to grow, and that's basically what we're going to do at nWay forever.
Excellent. That's wonderful to hear. So is there anything you can tell us about the future for nWay and Battle for the Grid? Because I can only imagine that you've got content planned in the pipeline.
Yeah, so one of the things we're most proud of has been our focus on expanding the game, as I mentioned, with the fighters, different game modes, and a lot of improvements for balance and keeping the game fresh. We have a lot of great plans for the future, new additions, including some big surprises. I can't talk about now, but I think the fans will be totally surprised when we do.
Excellent. Well, that is all that I've got to ask today, but is there anything else that you'd like to tell me?
No, just look forward to, Scorpina coming out in December. Our physical disc just launched too, which is a big accomplishment from the team. So you can buy the hard copy in the stores now, and look out for us in 2021.
Excellent. Congratulations on the physical release. And thank you everyone for watching Wccftech Interviews. Please do tune in for more, as we will be talking to many more people from within the gaming industry and communities.